All right, I am back. We're going to try again because, yeah, I don't know what was going on, but there was this weird delay. It was just chugging along. The delay was just too weird. Okay, please join me again. Let me know your first name and the city, state, or country that you are coming to us from. All right. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining. Let me know the city, state, or country that you are coming from and your first name. Okay. I am going to invite our guest in, but we are going to have a great conversation. All right. Let's see. Good evening.
Hey, Sister
Hi.
Anita.
How are you? There he is.
I'm
Okay.
doing great. I'm doing good. Excited
Good.
about
Good.
this evening.
Yes, yes. All right. So I am introducing Coach D, Coach Damaris Johnson,
Mhm.
and his platform on Instagram is Gospel Love One. So if you'd like to head over there after the live and check him out and check out his content, we're going to talk a little bit more about the topic for this week's podcast, which was why have we given up on
Right.
marriage? And here's how synchronicity works. So ever since we did that podcast, I have been coming across more and more content about marriage, men in marriage, people opting out of marriage. So I've been reposting all of that content to get us ready for this conversation.
Nice.
So,
Nice.
okay.
Nice.
All right. I see some folks. Okay, there we go. I'm going to try to welcome folks and thank you. I see a couple of people telling me their first name. Thank you so much. And the city, state, or country that you're coming to us from. So, Damaris, tell us a little bit about you. Tell us about your platform. Tell us about
Well,
Gospel Love One and your YouTube and all the good stuff you got going on.
well, yes. First, I want to thank you for just the opportunity to be on your platform and sharing with you and those who follow you about just what it is, our journey to this point. My wife and I have been married 27 years. It was a glorious, I call it experience from the very beginning. I was a professional football player playing professional football, and marriage was the furthest thing from my mind, right?
Right.
I was living it up. I was 25 years old in my second year as a professional football player. Leslie, at the time, was my girl who was back at college, finishing up her student teaching. And I was in Miami, Florida, on South Beach, hanging out with my teammates. And I made her some promises and shared some things with her. We had been together like 4 years at the time, but I wasn't thinking about getting married for, till I was 35, 40 years old. And all of a sudden, I met a teammate of mine by the name of Irvin Fryer, who was preparing for his pastorate at the church. He was like, Irvin had been in the league like 10, 12 years already, and so he was on his way out. And he kind of took me under his wing and just taught me. Well, first of all, he just loved me and was a friend to me and was like a mentor to me as a professional athlete. But then he began to share little nuggets of life as it pertained to the scriptures. And it was funny. Irvin was the senior receiver, so he got to have two lockers in the locker room. And he had a big old stereo, filled the whole locker. He would blast praise and worship music all through the locker room. And, he would, because he was the elder guy, he was the captain, so nobody could tell him not to do it. And my locker was right next to his. And so I used to get the brunt of it. And at the time, I wasn't really receiving it, but little did I know I was going to go through a traumatic experience in my pro career. And at the same time, Leslie had gotten fed up and wrote me a letter basically expressing to me all the promises that I made to her I had broken, and she was heartbroken, and she was just ready to move on with her life. And so coupled with that letter and that, the week before the regular season, Irvin had invited the whole team out to hear him preach his trial sermon. And we all went. And I got there late, and they gave me the seat in the front row that Irvin got out of. And he preached a message called Looking for Love in All the Wrong Places. And I really believe that message is still so relevant today. because there's so many people looking for love in all the wrong places. They're trying to find love in wherever they're trying to find it. But the true love that you're looking for first begins in your love relationship with God, but then it consummates with the love, loving the person that God has called you to love. And so Irvin preached that message, and then I went up to him. I said, Pops, I need that tape tonight. He said, I'll bring it to practice tomorrow. I said, no, I need it tonight, bro. I said, no. So he went and gave it to me. I took it home. I listened to it. I was reading Leslie's letter, and I knew God was speaking to me. And I said, Lord, what must I do to be the man you want me to be? I'm tired of trying to be the man you call me to be. I want to be the man you want me to be. And the Lord spoke to my heart. Call Leslie, tell her that you love her, tell her that you're going to marry her, and tell her that you're going to be with her for the rest of your days. And I moved instantly. And I picked up the phone, and I said, and I called Leslie. She answered the phone, and she had sent the letter like a week prior, and she didn't. And I hadn't called her because I was in training camp, so we were off in the hotel somewhere, and so she thought I was calling her to tell her that I didn't want to be bothered with it anymore, and that wasn't the case at all. I actually called her. I said, Leslie, God told me to call you and tell you something. Hey, what's up, Danielle? I said, God told me to call me and tell you something. She said, God. I had never said anything to her about God in my life. She said, God. I said, yeah, God told me to call you and tell you that I love you, that I'm going to marry you, and that we're going to be together for the rest of our life. And she went silent. Anita, she didn't say a word. She didn't say yes. She didn't say no. She didn't say what. She didn't say anything. And so I said, you don't have to answer me right now. I said, think about it and call me back. And after I did that, I hung up the phone. And I'm talking about, I experienced new birth. I experienced the love of God coming to my heart. I experienced salvation like I never experienced anything before. I was just sharing this with somebody the other day. I could literally feel the presence of love just oozing into my being. And all I wanted to do from that moment forward was to just love. I wanted to be the lover God had called me to be. And I wanted to initiate with Leslie. And eventually she called. I think I called her back. She didn't call me back for a couple hours. I called her back and I was like, hey, what's she gonna do now? Right. And so she said yes. And we ended up getting married. And that was 27 years ago.
Wow.
And I've been on a quest for these last 27 years to love like God has called me to love. And it began very early I was playing in Miami, and I ended up becoming a free agent. I left Miami. I came to the Buffalo Bills, and I've been here in Buffalo. And the church we became a part of, they immediately put us, I shouldn't say immediately, but after a couple of years, they put us in over the marriage ministry and over the men's ministry. And so we've been coaching couples for the last 22 years. I've been coaching husbands. We've been coaching marriages. We've been coaching wives into what we believe is marriage mastery. What we believe marriage was meant to be mastered.
Right.
We don't believe that God intended for marriage to be hard, but he intended it for it to be easy. And there's a reason why people are running away from marriage, and we're gonna get into that a little bit more. But that's who I am. We started this gospel love, like there's no better news than the news of love. Gospel meaning good news of love. And what we want to bring is this good news of love, and how loving as a husband and as loving as a wife can transform marriages and make them to be what God intended for them to be, was these living organisms that produce life, and life more abundantly in the husband, in the wife, in their children, in their children's children, in the communities, in the society. There's been so many people impacted just by Leslie and I's marriage. Who see us, they see us loving each other. And like I can give you testimony after testimony after testimony of husbands who see me loving Leslie, and they be like, wow, that's how that's done. And then they want to go, and they're inspired to go and love their wives. Like the impact that your marriage can have, not just on you and your immediate family, but those who God has put in your sphere of influence, is really what it's all about. And so we want to share that through our gospel love brand, where we talk about heroic husbandry, wondrous wifery, marriage mastery, preparing the unmarried for marriage. Like that's the key, is preparing the unmarried. So all of these things is what we do in our gospel love brand, and our content reflects that. And we're putting up inspirational things on a regular basis. We have our first Heroic Husband Challenge of the year coming up at the end of this month, where we take husbands and we help them to fulfill the mandate, that audacious mandate that God has placed upon us to love our wives as Christ loved the church. That's a powerful mandate. And so we make that plain. We make that practical. We help to inspire them. We help to invigorate them. We help to pull out all of that love that's on the inside of them and help them to identify with who it is God wants them to be as a husband. And so we got that coming up the 27th, the 28th, I'm sorry, the 26th, the 27th, the 28th of January of this month. And so we want as many husbands as possible to be a part of that movement so that they can live up to the heroic call of being a husband and loving their wife as Christ loved the church. So in a nutshell, that is who we are. That is what we do. And I'm excited to be here with you to talk about the topic of why people giving up on marriage. So that is me.
Okay. Well, I got a comment here that says I'm inspired just by hearing. So exactly, that is what we're after. We're here to inspire people. And your testimony in your marriage, it inspired me. It inspired me to say, okay, this exists. There are people. I have a good close friend of mine who's been married 33 years, and her husband's marriage inspires me. It reminds me that when you have two people that are committed to their marriage and to the relationship and to loving each other, like you said, being an example of God's love to one another, it works. It works.
But the Bible says it like this: marriage is honorable. Like couples that's been doing it for 33 years, like we should be putting them up on Mount Rushmore. Like we should be honoring them. We should be celebrating. We should be giving them Emmys. We should be giving them awards. Like they're the ones we need to be putting in front of society. 33 years. Like marriage is the mechanism that God intended for society to be impacted by. Is marriage. And when you got people that's been doing it 33 years, 35 years, 40 years, like they should be being honored because they've shown a level of commitment and sacrifice and dedication to loving that God intended to be. And so I love hearing it. Like we celebrate. We have a community. We call it our Coffee in the Morning Club, where we have couples who've been obviously we have unmarried to couples who've been married for 30 years, a part of the group. Like we honor everybody for every anniversary, but those couples that's like 25, 30, like we honor them because they're to be honored. Like they're demonstrating a level of love that Christ has for the church that's uncommon to our society. And so I love hearing that you have a friend that's like 33 years, like I'm looking forward to, you know, my wife not being able to say that, like 33 years, 30 years, that's what it's all about. That's what life is all about. And so when we learn to honor that, then we'll be a better community for it. We'll be a better people for it. We'll be a better society. We'll be a better country. When we honor things God has intended for us to honor.
Right. So one of the things that I talked about earlier today, I went live to kind of promote this live, and I was telling people how important it is. So I've given plenty of commentary on why marriage is in the state that it's in. People they know what I think. They know how I feel about what's going on. The number one thing that I've told people is you're attempting to do marriage in your own strength. Like there's no God in it. There's no Jesus in it. You just bumping into somebody and you feel some electricity and you pick them. And that in and of itself, I'm like, that's why you getting the result you get.
That ain't gonna work. No,
it's not.
Work. See, what's happening is people, they take the scripture, he that findeth the wife. They think that means go out and find somebody. But that's not what it means. Whenever we want to identify what God is talking about, a lot of times we have to go back to the beginning. Remember when Jesus was approached by some religious folks, they said, Moses said we can write a bill of divorcement. What do you say? Jesus said, well, Moses did that because of the hardness of your heart. In other words, you was going to do it anyway, but he just gave you a letter of divorcement. He says, but in the beginning, it wasn't like that. So Jesus always pointed us back to the beginning. When we go back to the beginning, we can see what God meant when he said, he that findeth. Adam didn't go looking for Mr. Adam, I should say, didn't go looking for Mrs. Adam. She was brought before him. The way we find our wife is built into our calling. God first gave Adam, the male version, his mandate, his mission, his purpose, his calling. As he went to fulfill that then he encountered his wife.
Right.
God brought her to him. Your wife is built into your purpose.
Yep.
Your husband, wife, women are built, they're built into your purpose. As you go about fulfilling who it is God has called you to be, what it is God has called you to do, you will cross paths.
Right.
You don't have to go out dating and looking and searching, and you don't have to do all of those things. When you get into the realm of the purpose for which God has called you, you'll come across them.
Right.
He'll bring them to you. She's built into your life. So part of the struggle is the genesis of the relationship. When you take matters in your own hands, when you go out and you find you somebody you think is right for you, you think you compatible with, you hope you can make it work with,
right,
eventually you're gonna have problems, because it has to be originated by God. It has to be originated. That's why I only know one way, Anita, to tell folks who to marry and how to get married. It has to be, you have to hear from God. You got to know. And it don't have to be an audible voice. It don't have to be a thunderous cloud come over your head. It can be that inner knowing. Right. It can be an inner knowing, and it can be, but it has to be confirmed by people who God put in your life. Right. And we've encountered so many couples that has gone through that process both the wrong way and the right way, right? So we encourage, like wait so that you know, right? And then you're not dating to discover who to marry, but you're dating the way God intended for you to date. You date to know how to love the one God has told you to marry. That's a big difference. Yep. We date, right? Like, so our problem with dating the way we date in our society is that we got it upside down. We date to know who to marry. Right. There's only one phrase that's close to the concept of dating as we know it. That's the word sporting in the Bible. When Isaac was when Rebecca was was captured by Egypt, or they played like they were brother and sister, right? And the king took Rebecca into his palace. He would let her go out from time to time, and the Bible says the king saw Rebecca and Isaac sporting with each other. That's the idea of dating. That's the closest thing we get to dating in the Bible. Right. It's the idea of courtship. Well, that don't take place till after you know who it is God wants you to marry. Right. I'm not dating to discover who to marry. I'm dating to discover how to love the person God has showed me that it's going to be my wife. If you're not dating for any other reason, you're putting yourself at risk. You're putting your heart at risk. You're putting your mind at risk. You're putting your emotional state at risk. So we just, as believers, we need to do it from a faith-based perspective. And we just need to do it different. And because of the heartache, because of the disappointment, because of all the horror stories we've heard about people who chose to date this way, that's why we are giving up on marriage, whether marriage works. Because the genesis is wrong. You can get a right revelation with a wrong genesis. Right. And that's a lot of times when we date the way secular society, and unfortunately, Anita, and I hate to bring this up, but unfortunately, we have leadership that promotes the secular concept for dating. Yeah. And we're misleading a lot of God's people into this whole idea. You got to date to see who you're compatible. Well, how can I be compatible with somebody that's going to ever be changing? Right. So it's just I got a lot of stuff to say about dating. That's not why we're here. We're here to talk about why. Yeah. But I think dating has to do a lot with it, because we're basically preparing ourselves for divorce when we under the current concept of dating that we have, right? Like, I can date you for a year. Yep. But if I get tired of you and I don't think we're gonna make it, I can just leave you alone. Yep. Right? And we carry that mindset right over into marriage. Yeah. I can be married to you for 3 or 4 years, and if I see something I don't like that right there, okay, I'm out of here. Yeah. Right? So anyway, I think that's why a lot of us have given up on marriage. Yeah. Yeah. But the very nature of
what we've been doing in the last probably 15, 20 years. And most recently with social media and everything that's going on there, app dating, like we are being treated like products. We're not
Yep.
even people anymore. We're
Yep.
in a vast catalog of all these different people that we just we swipe and swipe, and we wonder why we're having
Mm-hmm.
struggles with committing. We wonder why we're having all these struggles with, instead of being gratified, we should be after long-term satisfaction. So gratification is not what we're after. We're after long-term satisfaction.
And most people don't understand that. They want that instant gratification.
Yep.
And in most cases, they get that through the sexual aspect of the relationship, of a love relationship, right? But that what you're talking about, that long-term satisfaction,
right,
comes through what we deem as the goal for marriage, right? Marriage has its goal. God's end isn't marriage for me and Leslie, for Leslie and I. It wasn't getting married. The goal for God having Leslie and I to get married so that we can experience that long-term eternal satisfaction is oneness. Is oneness. Most folks get married for the wrong reason. And then they don't understand what's going on because they don't understand the idea for you getting married is oneness. And I ain't trying to be one with you. I ain't trying to believe what you believe and feel the way you feel and desire what you desire. I'm not trying to walk with you like that. I just love the idea of getting married. Like I ain't trying to be one with you.
Right.
But marriage demands of us to become one. Exactly. And when you don't go into marriage with the idea of becoming one with your spouse, I'm talking about from the spiritual to the economic. If you don't go into marriage with the idea of I'm going to be one with what we believe, like we're going to believe the same, right? Like Sister Anita, Leslie, my wife she grew up in church. I was completely unchurched. Wow. Never went to church a day in my life. Lived life the way I thought life was supposed to be lived. Treated women the way I thought women were supposed to be treated. Treated friends the way I thought friends were supposed to be treated. I had no idea, no concept of Bible, faith, none of that stuff, right? Until the day I went to that service with Irvin Frye. And then I started reading my Bible. But Sister Leslie grew up, I'm talking about strong traditional Baptist church. Like I'm talking about, white gloves and you can't sit where you want to sit and you can't walk in front of the pulpit. I'm talking about all that stuff, right? Right. So she had her concept of what it was. Well, once I started reading the Bible, I said, baby, that ain't right. That ain't right. Like that ain't right. We had to get on the same page as far as what we believe. Right. That's where oneness began. So we would go to the Word of God. We would go to I'm talking about every little thing we went to the Word on. Like, what does the Bible say? What does God say? That brought us together spiritually. That connected us spiritually. We now believe in the same. Now we can connect mentally. Now we can start thinking the same because the Bible is called to renew your mind, to change the way you think about life. Now we're thinking the same about money. Now we're thinking the same about marriage. Now we're thinking the same about husbandry. Now she know what to expect from me as a husband. I know what to expect from her as a wife because we're getting it right from the Word. Now we're thinking the same. Now parenting is the same. Like we're thinking the same about everything. Right. Now once we get to psychological, now we got the emotional. Right. Now we feeling the same way. Now we feel the same about each other. Now we feel the same about life and purpose and what it is God has called us to be. Now the physical. Now the physical comes in. Right. Now, see, Sister Leslie and I, we was together and we were sexual before I got saved. Like, and we thought we was enjoying each other, right? But once we got connected faith-wise, once we got connected psychologically, once we got connected emotionally, I'm talking about sexuality went to a whole nother level. That's like that's one. See, the reason people are giving up on marriage because they ain't experiencing that, Anita. No, they're not experiencing it to that level because ain't nobody talking to them about it. Ain't nobody explaining to them what it means for a husband to love his wife as Christ loved the church. Ain't nobody explaining to them and giving them practical steps of what it means for a wife to reverence her husband and to honor her husband. See, we don't know what that means. Right. So we get married, we get married, we think husbandry is this, and we act, but marriage demands of you
Right.
to identify as a lover.
Mm.
Marriage is made for lovers.
For sure.
Not like,
For sure.
not lusters, but lovers.
Mm-hmm.
That's what marriage is made for. But if we don't identify with being a lover,
Right.
we don't know what that means. So we're going to shy away from being married.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a friend of mine who asked me recently, he said, Anita, you know, why do you want to get married? You've been married before and your marriage ended, and you've not remarried in all of these years, but you have expressed a desire to marry. And I told him, I said, well, number one, I am ready to serve.
Mm.
Number two, I am ready to grow in the confines of a marriage. And I know it is the vessel in which I will grow. Like I will become my best self within marriage. And then number three, and this is the biggest reason of all, and this has always been my reason for loving and supporting marriage, is I want my marriage to be a light out here in a dark world. I want to be a shining example of what a healthy marriage and relationship looks like. That's it.
And those are three fabulous reasons, Anita. I love your first one though. I love your first one. It's to serve.
That's
right?
It.
It's to serve. And that the Hebrew concept of marriage literally means to serve the best out of you. Like what you said summed up what what God's mind is about marriage. It's to serve, it's to grow, to be your best self, and for your marriage to be a light. I don't know if you knew that. But you
I didn't, but that's
everything you just said brings out the Hebrew concept of marriage. It's to serve you to life.
Right.
Adam was to love the life right out of Mrs. Adam. I'm to love the life right out of Leslie. You're to love the life right out of your husband to be. You're to love the life. We say it like this. Marriage is about the mandate. We got a lot of what marriage is, things that we say, but it's about the mandate. The mandate is about dominion, right? As a man, as the male version of the man, I am to love the life right out of Leslie or right out of my wife that will then be a support to me.
Right.
Just like the body of Christ is the support structure for Christ, who's seated at the right hand of the Father, who's down here, the church down here, fulfilling the mandate. She becomes a support structure for me. Right. We become a living organism together that becomes unstoppable. Like this is faith-based marriage. Like that's what we talk about. We don't talk about the stuff that other folks experience. It's about faith-based, right? And for you to describe wanting to serve, right? The idea of submission, it literally means to tenderly devote yourself to bring out the best in your spouse. Yeah. Because husbands are supposed to be just as submitted to their wife as they want their wife to be submitted to them. Right? It's a servant's position. It's a servant's call. It is. If we don't understand this, if we don't understand this, then we're going to shy away from marriage. We're going to run from it, right? But this is what we need to be propagating. This is what we need to be hearing from our pulpits. This is what we need to be hearing in our Instagram live. It's a faith-based perspective on marriage. But unfortunately, we're not hearing that, because if you hear it enough, you're going to believe it. That's right. Because faith cometh by hearing. The problem ain't folks believing. The problem is, what are they hearing? Exactly. What are you hearing about marriage? Exactly. That's what's discouraging people from marriage, is what they're hearing about it. And that's why I'm glad we have an opportunity for them to hear God's perspective on what marriage is supposed to be. Right? And for lovers. And you got to identify as a lover to do it. And I love what you said. It's beautiful. It's perfect. Like I don't know if you know that it's perfect. I didn't, but those have always been my reasons.
Those have always been my reasons for wanting to get married. So it's not about the wedding. I didn't have a wedding the first time. It's not about the wedding. It's not about the ring. You know, it's not about the honeymoon. It's about, you know, serving and being a light. And my goal was always to have my family, my husband, my marriage, for that to be a light in this dark world, for that to be a shining example, like to the people in my family, to my friends. That's what I've always wanted. That's what I've always wanted. So, yeah.
Unfortunately, Anita, we're not hearing. Yeah. We're not hearing that, and most people are putting all of their energy and efforts into the wedding day.
Right.
We just did some research on that, and they say people invest probably they invest over a year in over a year and year and 6 months in planning for the wedding, right?
Right.
They spend upwards to $12,000 to $25,000.
Yep.
Most of them that don't have the money.
Yep.
on the wedding day, right? Yep. And they spend about 4 hours preparing to be married.
Wow.
Because that's the average the average number of sessions that a premarital counseling takes you is 4 sessions. Right. 4 hour long sessions. They spend a year and a half planning the wedding, getting the routine right, getting the dance right, getting the music, all the stuff they put into it. Yep. They spend $12,000 to $25,000 a month they don't have. Yep. And spend 4 hours. Yep. On preparing for marriage. Yep. They get married after the wedding, don't have a clue what it means to be a husband, don't have a clue what it means to be a wife, don't understand what the demands of marriage, and they end up divorcing faster. Listen, some of them are divorcing quicker than they prepare for the marriage day. Yep. Yeah. And now they give marriage a bad name and they shy away from it, right? Right. But we're here to help them to understand that it is the most beautiful and enriching organism that God ever created. But you got to have ears to hear from a faith-based perspective. For sure. Right? That you're taking a position you take even after you going through a divorce, even after you going through what you went through, to still have that desire is a testament to the God in you, is a testament to the life of God flowing through you, is a testament to you identifying as a lover. You just want to serve. Right. That's what lovers want to do. That's it. That's what the lovers want to do. They want to love somebody to like. That's it. That's it. That's a wife for you. Yeah. Right there. That's it. We had a comment. So I want to thank Zip76 for buying a badge. Thank you so much, because that means the world to me. You are supporting something that is actually, trying to give you something good tonight. So I really appreciate that. If anyone else wants to purchase a badge, please do that. It feels good knowing that you are willing to financially support something that is positive, something that is good, something that I believe is feeding your soul tonight. That speaks volumes. So thank you, Zip76, for purchasing a badge. We had another comment where the person said, when I was talking about being of service, and they said, well, I guess most of us are selfish. And I'm like, quite a few people are just selfish. Yeah. They're just selfish. Well, I hope, that's a tough pill to swallow for some. Right. But that's why one of the things we do is, the first thing we do is we help husbands and wives identify as a lover, right? Most of them don't even realize that by the simple fact that you are here and you're a human being created in the image and likeness of God means you can identify as a lover. Right. Why? Because God is love. Right. And if I'm made in God's image, if I'm made in God's likeness, then therefore I've got to be a lover. Like God created me to love. That's why he told us that we can love as he loves. Right. I got to identify as a lover. Once I identify as a lover, Anita, that deals with the selfish nature of the fallen man. The fallen man focuses on self.
Right.
The new man focuses on, this is gonna sound counterintuitive, focuses on self for the purpose of focusing on others.
Right.
Because I gotta love me before I can love you.
For sure.
I gotta love who I am before I can love who you are. Right? We love our neighbor as we love ourselves. Right?
That's
so
right. Yep.
I gotta be in love with me, right? So that I can be in love with you. We have to now allow love to be what God intended for it to be, and that will cause it to focus on the object of our love.
Right.
All Jesus was focused on was the object of his love, and that's you and I. That's
it.
You and I.
That's it.
Love, identifying as a love, will deal with the selfish nature of who we are and embrace it. We're in the middle of a coaching session now in our Coffee in the Morning Club, where we're talking about who marriage is for. And marriage is made for lovers. And a lot of the things that we're talking about as it relates to identifying as a lover and who marriage is made for is really giving the characteristics of who a lover is, the quality and the traits of a lover. So it's giving people a better visual of what they're identifying to. And I'm telling you that some of the stuff God's been revealing to us and we've been sharing with our couples, it's revolutionary. And just to give you an example, when you identify as a lover, here's what you're identifying to. You're identifying to be one who hopes to the end. Like a lover has a level of hope. I can hope, Anita, I can hope you out of this and into that. I can hope you from being disappointed and discouraged and frustrated as a wife into. I'll never forget, God told me to do 3 things to Leslie: comfort her, affirm her, and confirm her. Because I beat her down with my words. I told her some of the most things that I said that I'm embarrassed to even say to you right now. So she needed to be built up. She needed to be strengthened. And the Lord told me to do those 3 things. And I started speaking to her with the language of love. She thought I was crazy. She looked at me one time. She said, who? I don't know you. Who are you? Like, I don't know who you are. But I started speaking to her in a way that strengthened her, that built her up, that cleansed her, that washed her, that made her to be this Proverb 31 woman that I saw her. God gave me a vision of her as, and I started speaking to her in that fashion. And I'm talking about, she came alive in a different way. And now she's able to be all that God intended for her to be as a woman, as a wife, as a mother, like as a professional. Like all these things begin to come alive simply because as a husband, I took the responsibility to have a hope. Like I saw something in her to love her. Lovers are hearers. They hear differently, right? Lovers, they hear with an intent, Nita. They hear with an intent to serve, as you just said. Lovers, they hear with this expectation. Like I want to hear what you have to say, so that I can get to know you, so that I can love you in a special way you want to be loved.
Exactly.
That's how lovers hear.
Right.
When you identify with being a lover, you hear differently. You hear with an expectation. You hear with an intention. Because I'm going to love you. Right. Now, you know, Nita, I come out of the sports background. I was a professional. I'm very competitive. I love competitively. Right. Like I love what
we need more of that.
Huh?
We need more of that.
I love competitively. Like I love it. Like I tell Sister Leslie all the time, you're not going to outlove me.
There you go.
You're not going to outlove me. See, when you identify as a lover, like I'm not talking about something that's far-fetched, Nita. Like it's in our wheelhouse. Like you created in the image and likeness of God. Like you created to love. You're created to love. Like that's who we are. Like you hear differently. You hear with the intent of knowing how to love your spouse. So those are just two of the traits that we've shared: a lover's heart, a lover's passion. Oh, it's just good. It's just good, Anita. It's good. And so, but that's what we need to be hearing. If we want like we wrote a book. We called it What Love Is. And my inspiration for this book, Anita, was I heard a pastor on Instagram. No, it was YouTube. I'm sorry, it was YouTube. He said, you need more than love to make marriage work. I said, how? So that's like saying, God, you need more than God to make marriage work. But then guess what he did, Nita? He went on to describe the characteristics of love. Right. He said you need patience, you need long suffering. I said,
yeah, that's what the scripture saying. Right.
That's love.
Right.
So they just don't have a comprehensive revelation of love. Right. Listen, I challenge. We call it's called What Love Is. Listen, I challenge you. Go get this devotional. Go get it. It's a 31-day devotion. I challenge. If it don't revolutionize the way you love, I will give you your money back double. I'm telling you, it's a comprehensive revelation on loving and identifying as a lover like you've never heard before. Guaranteed. For sure. Like you've never heard before. And so that's why we say we can solve 99% of marital issues simply by getting them to identify as a lover.
Yep. And I agree with that. Where can they find your book?
They can go to What Love Is Devotional.com.
Okay.
If somebody, if one of my team members is on this, can they put it in the chat? Can they type it in or something like that?
I'm gonna put it in there.
Okay. They can go to What Love Is Devotional, or they can go to Amazon and get it.
Okay. It's on Amazon?
It's on Amazon as well. They can get the hard copy, they can get the digital copy, and they can get the audio book. We did audio book, Nina.
Oh wow, that's awesome. So What Love Is, okay. I'm gonna see if I can find this.
What Love Is Devotion.com, or just go to Amazon and get it. But it's going to revolutionize the way they see love, because most folks regulate love to a feeling. Right. But it's so much more than a feeling. It's so much. It's actually not even a feeling. It's a living organism that stirs and agitates my feelings, my capacity to feel. Right. So it's just something that I encourage them to go get, and it's going to cause them to run toward marriage now and not from it. Right. So yeah, that's just one of the instruments and tools we created to empower lovers to love and experience, listen, the intimacies, the pleasures, the power, and the purpose, not of marriage, but of oneness. Because that's the goal of marriage. Yep. Is oneness. Yep.
And this conversation, like I said, it continues to inspire me. And I've always told people that you're going to commit to the marriage. You're going to commit to the relationship. People will say, I'm committed to the person. I love the person and I'm committed to the person. But here's what I tell them. That person is going to grow and change and evolve. And so if you find yourself committed just to the person, guess what? You're going to wake up tomorrow and that person may be different. They may look different. They may have an illness or an injury. Commit to the marriage. Commit to making the marriage feel good. Commit to being faithful in the marriage. Commit to being honest. Commit to growth. Like, that's what I have been telling people, especially here recently, is commit to the marriage. And if both people are doing that, as we stated on the podcast, that's not something anyone is ever going to want to leave.
Right,
like,
right.
No one's leaving a great marriage.
No, listen, when you loving somebody to life, they ain't going nowhere.
No.
They ain't going to. I've been listening to Brother John P. Key. He got a song called Thursday Love. He said, there'll never be another love like this.
Right.
Like what you, like Jesus said it like this. He said, I'm jealous for you. That literally means to permit no rivals.
Right.
In other words, the way I'm loving you, ain't no competition for this. You
Right.
you ain't want to go nowhere else, right? But what people got to understand of what you're telling them as far as commit, most folks have the wrong source for love. Most folks don't have the right source. They make their spouse their source of their love when that's wrong, because
Right.
they're now basing how much they're going to appropriate their love to them based on their actions.
Right.
When that's totally wrong.
Mm-hmm.
God is your source of love.
Yep.
God makes my love to increase and abound, and then Leslie is the recipient of the abundance of that love.
Yep.
I tell her, you're the recipient of the overflow. But when if I ever make her my source, I'm actually putting her in a position that was reserved for God.
Right.
I'm putting her in a position she can't fulfill. I'm putting her in a position that she wasn't built to handle.
Yep.
She's not designed to be my source of love that continuously supplies me with love. She's not designed to do that. But what happens with a lot of couples is they make their spouse the source.
Right.
And when she don't or he don't fulfill it, they start looking another way. They start looking at them funny. They start looking at them different. When in actuality, you did something you weren't supposed to do.
Yep.
So what you're encouraging them to do, they got to understand. No, they're the recipient of the overflow of this love affair that I'm in with Savior. That's where it has to start. That's the end, right? And the reason why folks are giving up on marriage is because they have the wrong, or let me say it like this. They have the worldly divorce-based culture perspective on what marriage is. They have there's a divorce culture that's I think I heard somebody mention something about the state of mind. There's a divorce culture that's causing us to think a certain way about what marriage is supposed to be and what marriage is supposed to look like.
Right.
Completely wrong. We have to get God's perspective. We have to have God's mind or God's intent on what marriage is supposed to look like. And when we do that, Peter, we won't run from marriage. Once you see the living organism, the pleasure, the power, the purpose, the light, if we could just see everything God intended for marriage to be, we'd be running to marriage.
Exactly.
Instead of running from it.
Exactly.
But we got to hear differently. We got to hear things differently. We're not hearing the right. We're not listening to the right people talk about marriage. Unfortunately.
No. Or we're not talking about it at all. Because as I mentioned just this morning in my live, I said, I work with thousands of people, thousands of couples prior to marriage. And I find it so fascinating that when I ask the miracle question, and that is, if you both went to bed tonight and you woke up tomorrow and the relationship was exactly as you wanted it to be, what would the relationship be? And it's becoming more and more rare that couples tell me they will be married. Like, they're not saying that. They're saying, oh, we'll live together. Oh, we'll have a kid. We'll get a dog. We'll buy a house. And I'm just like, so you're not going to get married?
Right.
that don't factor in at all? But people, it's like a non-factor now.
Because because it's become this institution that God never intended to be. It's become this broken fallacy of promises made that aren't being kept by people who've gone about it the wrong way. And it's the prevailing picture that many people are seeing nowadays. We're at 60% divorce rate now. Like that's 6 out of 10 folks who confess to love you to their dying day say, I quit, I give up.
Right.
But again, that's why we need people like Better Love Movement. We need gospel love. We need people who are declaring this thing from a faith-based perspective. And Anita, another thing that's important is the language that we're using to reveal what we know.
Right.
We can't we can't be still using secular language to describe a kingdom-oriented love relationship.
Right.
We got to use the language that God intended for us to use. And that's the language of love.
That's it.
We got to be expressed in a way that's going to present husbandry from a heroic perspective. Like our Heroic Husbands Challenge that's coming up this weekend, like you're going to see, like once we break down to you what husbandry looks like, what husbandry is, oh, you're going to be like, oh, I'm a superhero.
Right.
God is expecting me to do, like it's in me to do that.
Yep.
Like our Wonders Wives Challenge that's coming up in February. Like you're going to see the wondrous thoughts that God has towards you, like a wife. You talking about superwoman.
Yep.
But we're not seeing that, we're not hearing that, we're not understanding that. Therefore, we're running away from it. Right. And that's why
yeah. Well, I hope that this has given a new perspective to those who stayed with us. I hope that this has inspired you as much as it has inspired me. I want you to get a copy of Coach D's book, especially if you're in a relationship or you're married. I have a lot of married men on my platform, some married women on my platform, and they're struggling in their marriage. They fall in my DMs every day with their questions or the struggles they're having in their marriage. But as I have told you all since this platform began, I don't know how y'all out here living down here on earth without having God in your life. Like, I don't know how you're doing that. Like, you blowing my mind. I don't know how you trying to live, you trying to get married, you trying to raise kids. I need God. I can't do it in my own strength. Okay? That's why I'm still here in my right mind. Because I know Jesus. So y'all you really need to think about this.
Right.
Okay? This world is getting treacherous. And if you think you're going to keep navigating without having anything greater than yourself, okay, let's see how that works.
Especially when it comes to marriage, Anita, because marriage was a spiritual activity.
Yep.
It's not a carnal activity. It's a spiritual activity. It's something that is for spiritual people, for the spiritually mature to be exact. So if you're not mature spiritually, then you're going to struggle in marriage.
For sure. Okay, we have a comment. Seeing that level of covenant God's way can bring focus on the purpose of marriage. For sure. For sure. But you all, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Coach D, thank you for being on this live. This live is going to be saved, you all. So if you came in at the beginning and had to leave, or if you're coming in at the end, please watch the replay. This is going to inspire you. It's going to cause you to think and to really say, okay, maybe I got this thing wrong. Maybe there is something to what they're talking about. But this is how we get our country back. This is how we get our communities back. We do it with marriage. We do it with strong families. And I'm not seeing that right now. I'm seeing all this division. I'm seeing men mad at women, women mad at men. Like, the devil done pulled a fast one on y'all. Y'all done ate it whole. Like, sometimes when I hear people talk, I'm like, man, this is what we're doing. And you actually think we're going to grow and get better? You actually think our communities are going to get stronger, hating each other? It's not. It's not. We have to make a change. We have to make a change. But
well,
Coach
Nita,
D,
thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. In here. I look forward to the next time we can do this.
For sure.
And I will be in touch with you. And God bless all of those who follow you on your platform. Man, we thank you for them. We thank you for supporting them. Stay connected to Anita's movement. Stay connected to it so that you can experience love and marriage the way God intended.
Yes, for sure. And so, Gospel Love 1, I want you to head over there. Please follow. Please check out his content. It is fantastic. If you'd like to get connected with him, do you have a link tree? Do they have a way to click a link in your bio? Okay, great.
Link tree will connect you to all of our Coffee in the Morning Club, our Heroic Husbands Challenge, our Wonders Wives Challenge. Everything that we do is all in our link tree.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much, you all, for joining us tonight. I appreciate you. Thank you again to Zip76 for purchasing a badge. I so appreciate you. Coach D, have a wonderful night. You all, thank you so much for joining. And as always, stay open to love.
God bless.